Scary Stories 5 Story 1 The Boardwalk Incident. I don't lead a thrilling life, but when folks ask for a spooky tale, this is the one I share. I was 15, gearing up for my sophomore year of high school. I grew up in a classic beach town, swarmed with tourists in summer but deserted once the season ended. Bars and restaurants shuttered, leaving just locals, the sky, and the ocean. If you've never visited the shore in the off-season, I highly recommend it. It's one of the oddest yet most serene experiences you can have. As cheesy as it sounds, our house sat on a street named Surf Avenue, just a block from the beach. Funny enough, I can surf. It'd be pretty sad to live on Surf Avenue without knowing how. I'd spent my whole childhood there, so the boardwalk and sand were practically part of my identity. I don't live in that house anymore, but the property's still in the family, so it feels like a piece of me remains. Back then, I was on my high school varsity cross-country team, obsessed with staying in shape, even during the off-season. Summers at the shore get brutally hot, so I'd run early in the morning or late at night to avoid melting or dodging tourists. That night, I opted for a late run. I'd stayed up late with friends the previous night and slept in, so I had little choice. I never took my phone running. It was annoying without music, but even that slight weight threw me off. I had a cheap little Garmin watch to track distance and pace, and the only other thing I carried was my house keys. My parents were strict about locking the house, so I had to stuff the keys in my shorts pocket every time, even if they were home. It was a non-negotiable rule I still don't fully get, especially since private beach towns are usually safe. But that's beside the point. I stuck to the boardwalk that night. Its surface was soft enough to be kind to my legs, but not as grueling as sand. Sometimes I'd jog on the beach for a challenge, but after the day I'd had, I wanted an easy, long run with minimal elevation changes. The boardwalk was perfect. After a few miles, I zoned out, riding that euphoric runner's high. I tell people even now, if you can push past that first mental wall, around 3 miles or so, the rest of the run feels easy, almost fun. I was tuned into the slap of my shoes on the wood, half focused on the distant ocean sounds, in that sweet rhythm where you forget you're running. Then I heard it, a faint clink. I stopped, checked my pocket. Empty. My stomach sank. It was my keys. I crouched, peering through the boardwalk gaps, but it was pitch black underneath, and no way could I retrieve them from up there. I started cursing, yelling out loud. It sounds silly, but the adrenaline from running was still pumping, and I was mad this detour wrecked my flow. I knew my parents would be furious if I returned without those keys, so without much thought, I hopped off the boardwalk and headed to the sand below. It was partly pride. I wasn't about to abandon my belongings. The smell under the boardwalk hit me hard, rotten seaweed mixed with stale beer, like a bathtub filled with the stuff. It was damp, heavy, and every step kicked up sand and trash. Without my phone, my watch's backlight was my only guide, and it was barely useful. I crouched where I thought the keys fell, but found nothing, just sand clumps and garbage scraps. It was disgusting, but I needed those keys. I considered ditching them but decided I'd come too far to leave covered in filth for nothing. I sifted the sand thinking they might be buried, but after a few minutes, frustration set in. Had I misjudged the spot that badly? It seemed the most logical answer. I climbed back to the boardwalk, stood where I'd stopped, and tried to pinpoint the spot below. Then I had a bright idea: use my shoelace as a marker. I knelt, untied it, and slipped it through the planks to hang below. As I stood, something yanked the lace, and it vanished into the crack. Not a breeze, not my movement, something from below. I froze, shocked. Someone had pulled it. I stepped back, staring at the spot. There was someone under the boardwalk, and they likely had my keys. My first urge was to run home and deal with it later, but the thought of someone having my house keys, with our address etched on them, made my blood boil. I don't know why I did it, call it dumb teenage bravado, but I took a deep breath, jumped back to the sand, and crawled under again. It felt different this time. The air was heavier, and I braced for a fight. I heard faint shuffling ahead. My chest tightened. I swung my watch's light toward the sound, but saw only sand and beams. I kept moving, then heard shuffling again from another direction. It hit me the noise wasn't from one spot. There were multiple people under there. That was enough. Common sense hit like a freight train. What was I thinking, fighting some vagrant under the boardwalk? It was suicidal. I turned to leave, trying not to panic. But before I could escape, something cold grabbed my ankle. A hand. I screamed as fingernails dug into my skin. I didn't think. I kicked as hard as I could. My foot hit something, and the grip released. I scrambled out, scraping my legs and arms on sand and wood, bursting into open air. I didn't stop, I sprinted home. When I reached the front door, I pounded until my dad opened it. He was beyond livid. I was shocked he didn't get physical. Before he could fully lose it, I spilled everything: the keys, the shoelace, the people under the boardwalk. The commotion woke my mom, who was furious until she saw the marks on my ankle. Her face shifted to fear. My dad called the police, and the next morning, a locksmith changed all our locks. For a few days, things felt normal. I thought it was over, just a bizarre night to forget. But a few mornings later, loud knocking woke me. It was early, too early for visitors. I waited for my parents to handle it, but when they didn't, I pulled on a hoodie and went downstairs. I checked the peephole, nobody. Confused, I opened the door. No one was around, no cars, no people. As I was about to close it, I spotted something on the doormat: my shoelace, the one from that night. I slammed the door shut. We got a security system installed that afternoon. For weeks, my family lived in fear, but nothing else happened. Even now, I can't fully make sense of it. Though I don't live there anymore, it still unnerves me that some stranger knows where our beach house is. 5 Story 2: The Shadowed Figure. The thing about a beach town in the off-season is it feels abandoned. Tourists are gone, storefronts are boarded up, and the boardwalk, summer's heartbeat, is an empty shell. I love it, though. It's peaceful. For years, I'd run late at night on the boardwalk in the off-season when it was deserted. It was my escape from life's stress. The sound of waves and the rhythm of my sneakers on the wooden planks soothed me, making me feel like I owned the world. That night was no different. The air was crisp, smelling of salt and damp wood. The only lights were from occasional street lamps, buzzing faintly, casting long, lonely shadows. I was about a mile in when I got that feeling. You know, when you're not alone. I glanced back. A man stood in the distance, not walking, not moving, just standing on the boardwalk, facing me. I swallowed, shook it off. Probably nothing, maybe a local out for a stroll. Still, it was eerie. I kept running, but minutes later, the sense of being watched grew stronger. My heart pounded, not from effort but something else. Curiosity gnawed, so I looked back. He was closer, still motionless, still facing me. Unease settled in my gut. I sped up, pulling out my one earbud. My feet hammered the wood, breath quickening, but every few moments I heard footsteps behind, in sync with mine. I turned again. He was even closer, yet perfectly still. I broke into a sprint. The once soothing boardwalk felt like an endless trap. My car was at the end, by the beach entrance. I just had to reach it. I ran harder than ever, lungs burning, legs screaming, refusing to stop. Every few seconds, I glanced back just enough to see him closer each time, always standing, always watching. I couldn't fathom how he stopped so suddenly whenever I looked. I wasn't watching where I was going, just focused on escape. The boardwalk exit finally appeared, and I nearly cried seeing my car. Fumbling with shaking hands, I barely pressed the unlock button. The lights flashed, and I threw myself inside, slamming the door. I turned the key, backed out, and as I shifted to drive, whipping the wheel left, I looked ahead. The man stood directly in front of my car, where it had just been. I barely glimpsed him, hood up, hiding most of his face. I cranked the wheel, nearly spinning out as I sped away. All the way home, I didn't care about red lights or swerving. I just drove, never looking back. At home, I locked every door, window, and entrance. I didn't sleep that night. I've had nightmares since, where that man appears, watching or chasing me. My mind conjures his face, none of them pleasant since I never really saw it. I haven't run on the boardwalk in winter since. 5 Story 3: The Bathroom Trap. This happened last summer. I was 22, spending a weekend at the shore with friends in the cheapest Airbnb we could find. It was our last night. We'd been on the beach with a bonfire, drinking, talking, nothing wild. Most of my friends were done, but I wasn't tired. I decided to walk off the buzz before heading to the Airbnb. The boardwalk at night has a strange calm, everything's empty. I hadn't spent much time at the beach, so it felt fresh and intriguing. After wandering, I realized I needed to pee. I'm not one to go in public. My friends tease me about it, so it was a problem. I spotted a public boardwalk bathroom, old, beat up, barely lit. Not ideal, but I couldn't wait. I pushed the door open and instantly regretted it. The smell was awful, like bleach masking something worse. I aimed to be quick, heading to the farthest stall. Then I heard the door creak open again. I winced, annoyed at losing privacy. Footsteps slowly circled the bathroom, which was odd. At times, they seemed to come from multiple directions, like more than one person, but I wasn't sure. They stopped near the sinks. No movement, no coughs, no water running. I didn't know what they were doing. I finished, ready to leave, but the stall door wouldn't budge. I jiggled the latch, still stuck. I wanted to punch the door, That's how frustrated I was. Then the footsteps started again, closer. A sick feeling hit my chest. It felt like someone was holding the door shut. I shoved the door with my shoulder. Nothing. Adrenaline surged, and my brain started piecing it together. I wasn't going to sit there helpless. I charged the door with all my strength, and it gave way, sending me stumbling out. The bathroom door swung shut, like someone had just left. I scanned the empty bathroom. The person was gone. I quickly washed my hands and grabbed the door handle to leave, but it wouldn't turn, as if locked from outside. I froze, mind racing. Was this a prank? Maybe my friends. But they'd left, and this wasn't their style. I was freaked out, so I banged on the door, yelling for whoever was out there to open it. No response. Then I heard movement in a stall behind me. I whipped around. Though I saw nothing, I knew someone was there. That meant 2 people had been in the bathroom the whole time. I didn't see feet under the doors. They must have been standing on a toilet, which was worse. I thought about calling the police but needed safety first. I spotted a grimy window near the ceiling. Small but my only option. I climbed onto the sink, which I thought might break, and shoved the window open. Halfway out, a stall door burst open. I locked eyes with a man, hairy, pale as death, dressed like a teenager but clearly around 50. I didn't wait. I scrambled through, dropped onto the boardwalk, and ran, my knee hitting hard. At a safe distance, I called the cops. They arrived fast. It's a beach town, but the guy was gone. That part of the boardwalk was dead. No cameras, no open shops. I showed the officers the scene, and one pointed to scratches on the door handle, suggesting someone tampered with it. We agreed whoever it was didn't want me leaving. Not comforting. The officers said I was smart to escape through the window. I left the beach the next day, so I never got updates. I doubt the police investigated much. Fafi Story 4. The Dune Fire. I'm sorry if I mess up some details. This happened when I was young, maybe 8 or 9, during a summer at my grandparents' beach house. It was the family hub. Siblings, cousins, aunts, and uncles piled in for weekends or weeks. The house wasn't fancy but had tons of bedrooms, sleeping us all easily, and was steps from the beach. I'd spend days playing in the sand or biking the neighborhood. Those summers were magical, like a long fever dream, especially now, far from that carefree childhood. That summer felt different. A big hurricane was forecasted, and the town prepared months in advance. They built massive sand dunes along the shore as barriers. To a kid, they looked like castle walls. My siblings and I spent hours climbing them, tumbling down, pretending to scale mountains or infiltrate fortresses. The dunes blocked the ocean view from the boardwalk, replacing water with a giant sand wall. The beach closed after hours. Lifeguards off duty, no one allowed, but that never stopped locals. The town was safe, everyone knew each other, and letting kids roam wasn't a big deal, especially post-tourist season. As long as we stayed out of the ocean, our parents were fine. I was a bit of a troublemaker, though loving to push boundaries when I thought I could get away with it. That's why I snuck out that evening. It wasn't dark. The sun hadn't set. I hadn't asked permission. I just wanted alone time, maybe after a fight with a sibling. I don't recall. The sliding door by the kids' bedrooms made sneaking out easy. My older cousins had perfected it for wilder reasons, and I'd learned from them. We still joke about how simple it was to slip in and out unnoticed. Barefoot, I headed to the boardwalk expecting to see locals or kids my age, but it was empty, not a soul. It felt like the beach was asleep. I walked a bit, half expecting someone, but no one appeared. It was eerie. Then I noticed something alarming, a thin trail of smoke rising from beyond a dune. At first, I thought it was fog, but it was smoke, like from a fire. Bonfires weren't unusual, though against beach rules and nearly illegal, sometimes lit by tourists. But with everything so empty, the smoke felt wrong. It looked like a volcano emanating from the dune. I looked for an adult, nobody, just the empty boardwalk. I should have gone home, but curiosity won, and my parents taught me to help those in need. This felt like that. I climbed the dune, away from the smoke. At the top, covered in sand, I looked down and saw a bonfire, but it was alone. No people, chairs, or coolers, just flames in an empty beach, like it was abandoned. It didn't feel right. Even as a kid, I knew leaving a fire was dangerous. I slid down and approached, staring for a moment. Unsure what to do, I kicked sand onto it over and over, until the flames died. I didn't want to leave yet, too curious. Why would someone light a fire and ditch it? It seemed criminal. I poked around the pit and found eerie things: kids' clothes, shoes, socks, half-buried fabrics, like stuff I'd wear. The fire was mostly clothes, which made me sick. Then I found photos, mostly charred. But one was clear enough, a boy my age, looking like a cousin I might have. It terrified me. I dropped the stick, freaking out. I was just a kid, never having faced anything so scary. Then a voice shouted, "Hey!" From down the beach. A bald man staggered toward me, his face unclear from afar, tripping every few steps like he was drunk or worse. He yelled, "Hey, kid!" and moved faster. I froze, petrified. He shouted, "Don't you go anywhere!" And my brain finally kicked in. I ran for the dune, sand slowing me, feeling like life or death. I climbed, hearing him yell obscene things getting closer. As I reached the top, fingernails clawed my ankle, but he couldn't grip. I vaulted over, tumbled down, and sprinted to the boardwalk, running home, glancing back to ensure he wasn't following. He wasn't, but I kept running like my life depended on it. At home, I went to my bedroom and cried. I wanted to tell my parents, but all I could think was how much trouble I'd be in for sneaking out. So I stayed quiet. Looking back, I know I should have spoken up, but I didn't. Nothing came of it. No news, no police, no missing kids reported. I still don't know what to make of it. What scares me most is how much that boy in the photo looked like me. Sometimes I wish I could tell my younger self to confess, but I'll live with it.